Corporate planning is often treated as an abstract exercise, a collection of vague aspirations. In practice, however, it functions as an exercise in strict mathematical alignment. At its core, planning is the rigorous determination of exactly what is to be done, alongside how, when, where, and by whom it is executed. The operational purpose of this calculation is straightforward: to move an entire entity from its current baseline position to a precise, targeted future objective. Without a structural mechanism to physically link those 2 points, a plan is just wishful thinking. It requires a rigid architecture to turn an objective into reality. The difficulty in building that architecture stems from a central operational tension. Achieving a single, unified corporate objective relies on thousands of individual, decentralized actions happening simultaneously. This diagram illustrates the idealized path. The current state connects directly to the objective via a single, unbroken vector, but execution is entirely different. Left to their own devices, individual actions naturally diverge, branching off in random directions away from the strategic target. Every unaligned action represents wasted resources, strategic drift, and ultimately operational failure. This is exactly why planning must be completed before any other managerial function is undertaken. It exists specifically to harness and control this operational chaos. A strategic plan provides the structural binding required to capture and align every scattered individual action across the organization. To see how this binding works, we start at the absolute top of the organizational hierarchy, the 3 to 5 year strategic budget. Looking at this diagram of the organizational pyramid, the topmost tier represents that strategic budget. It sits within an environment of constant external pressures, market trends, technological changes, and competitive forces. Because of its broad scope, this high-level blueprint is the exclusive domain of senior management and explicitly excludes day-to-day operational details. Instead, it relies on a dual analysis. Management evaluates the organization's specific internal strengths and weaknesses while simultaneously assessing those external environmental risks. By forecasting these external factors and weighing against internal competitive advantages, leadership plots a viable, long-term path forward. This macro blueprint becomes the ultimate anchor. It sets the absolute boundaries and financial constraints for every single operational budget that will follow down the chain. This creates a paradox. The strategic budget demands strict internal operational rigidity, yet it must survive in a highly uncertain and unpredictable external environment. A successful plan must be able to absorb a sudden shock without the core structure breaking. To manage this uncertainty, organizations rely on 2 distinct forecasting tools: contingency planning and scenario planning. When tracking a forward-moving timeline, a sudden disruption can halt progress entirely. To counter this, a parallel secondary track instantly activates to bypass the break. This is contingency planning. It involves having alternative strategies, like disaster recovery plans, prepared specifically for unexpected emergencies, ensuring operations continue with minimal loss. But uncertainty is not always a sudden disaster. Sometimes it involves long-term ambiguity across multiple variables. That requires scenario planning. This tool projects plausible future economic, political, or technological states and develops distinct alternative strategies to navigate each specific reality. Together, these 2 planning tools prevent the rigid strategic blueprint from shattering upon contact with external reality. With external threats managed, the focus shifts inward to the vertical structure of the strategic plan itself. This hierarchy operates on a strict mechanical principle. Watch how an objective at the top, labeled the end, drops downward and physically transforms into the structural base, the means, for the level below. This is the means-end relationship. The specific objectives achieved by one organizational tier literally construct the operational tools and methods for the tier immediately beneath it. This translation process repeats rapidly, cascading down through every vertical layer of the company. This continuous, unbroken chain of translation is exactly what ties the disparate, specialized parts of the hierarchy together into a unified whole. Intermediate and operational plans are never independent ideas. They are the direct, translated descendants of that initial top-level strategic budget. Through this cascade, a massive 5-year macroeconomic target is mathematically dismantled into actionable, highly focused daily tasks for the front line. Once tasks are distributed across the front line, management faces a new operational dilemma: guaranteeing these tasks are executed correctly without resorting to constant micromanagement. This requires balancing two distinct metrics. Efficiency is maximizing output from a given input, doing things right. Effectiveness is actually accomplishing the objective, doing the right things. Looking at this efficiency versus effectiveness matrix, you can see a data vector operating at peak efficiency, moving rapidly, but traveling entirely in the wrong direction. When high efficiency is applied to the wrong objective, it does not create value. It rapidly destroys it. To correct this drift, structural guardrails must be installed. These force the efficient production vector to redirect back toward the effective target. These guardrails act as standing plans, designed specifically for managing repetitive operational situations. They take three forms. Policies provide general statements to guide decision-making. Procedures offer specific directives defining exactly how work should be done. And rules operate as strict, detailed guides that completely restrict certain behaviors. Collectively, this system is known as feed-forward control. It is an active mechanism designed to anticipate problems and constrain behavior in advance, rather than reacting to failures after they occur. Policies and rules are frequently dismissed as bureaucratic red tape. In reality, they are highly engineered preventative controls that guarantee operational efficiency actually translates into strategic effectiveness. Yet, even the most rigorously engineered structural system harbors a vulnerability. Ultimately, execution relies entirely on autonomous human behavior. To solve this, organizations deploy Management by Objectives, or MBO. Think of it as a behavioral integration engine designed to harmonize individual self-direction with the broader corporate structure. This diagram isolates two nodes at the lowest tier of the pyramid, a superior and a subordinate. Between them, a continuous data loop synchronizes their efforts. MBO identifies the precise relationship between a subordinate's specific job targets and the immediate superior's broader objectives. The individual sees exactly how their daily work directly enables their manager's success. Implementing this requires strict parameters: active participation from senior management, periodic reporting to measure performance, and crucially, an organizational climate built on mutual trust and open communication. This approach rests on a distinct philosophical assumption. It posits that employees actively desire clarity, want to work hard, and are highly capable of self-direction when expectations are explicitly clear. When executed properly, MBO transforms passive, rule-following subordinates into active, motivated drivers of the entire means-end chain. When you combine the macro-level strategic budget, the precise means-end cascade, rigid feed-forward controls, and MBO, the organization reaches its final optimized state. The entire structure operates seamlessly, driving steadily forward without friction or hesitation. This state is defined as goal congruence. It is the ultimate harmonization, where massive corporate goals, precise operational plans, and daily employee procedures function as a singular, indivisible unit. Maintaining this equilibrium requires 4 constant inputs: absolute clarity of purpose, rigorous measurement and feedback loops, operational discipline, and committed leadership. The thousands of chaotic, unaligned actions that naturally threaten to pull a company apart have been successfully captured, organized, and unified by the system. Strategic planning is the act of engineering a highly controlled, interconnected organizational machine capable of reaching a specific future objective.